The crystal wine glasses clinked as my family celebrated another successful Sunday dinner. Mom's perfectly curated dining room screamed old money, though the Henderson fortune wasn't quite what it used to be, not that they'd ever admit it. "So, Alexandra," Mom said with that particular tone she reserved for disappointment, "still doing that consulting work?" I sipped my wine, a $2,000 bottle I'd brought but they assumed was cheap because I hadn't made a show of it. "Still consulting, yes. Such a waste," my brother Thomas sighed, adjusting his Rolex, a gift from Dad for simply existing. "With your Harvard MBA, you could be running Henderson Industries by now. If only they knew I already effectively did, through shell companies and strategic acquisitions they'd been too proud to notice." "Someone has to," Dad added, swirling his wine. "The company's stock has been challenging lately." Challenging was an understatement. Henderson Industries was bleeding money, though Dad's golf buddies on the board kept that quiet. Their outdated manufacturing processes and resistance to modernization were exactly why I'd spent 5 years secretly positioning for a takeover. "I saw the quarterly reports," I mentioned casually. "Have you considered modernizing the production lines?" Dad laughed dismissively. "Alexandra, honey, running a global manufacturing company is a bit more complex than your little consulting projects." My phone buzzed, a text from Jennifer, my chief of operations. "Final shares acquired. We control 51%. Ready when you are." "What sort of consulting do you even do?" Mom asked, though she'd never bothered to ask in the 5 years since I'd started Walker Strategic. "It must be difficult working from that small office downtown." My small office occupied 3 floors of a premium building and housed over 200 employees, but they'd never visited. It would have interfered with their narrative of my struggling career choice. "Mostly acquisitions and reorganizations," I replied mildly. "Help companies become more efficient." "Well," Thomas smirked, "when you're ready for a real job I'm sure Dad could find you something at Henderson. Maybe in HR. My phone buzzed again, photos of the new Henderson Industries sign being prepared. The one that would show its new ownership tomorrow morning. "Actually," I started but Mom cut me off. "I ran into Caroline Maxwell at the club," she announced. "Her son James is single again. He's a vice president at Goldman Sachs now. Much more suitable than that tech entrepreneur you dated." That tech entrepreneur was now worth $4 billion and had helped me structure the Henderson takeover. But heaven forbid I date someone who actually built something instead of inheriting it. "Speaking of the company," Dad sighed, "the board's been pushing for new leadership. They want me to groom Thomas to take over." Thomas preened, straightening his designer tie. "It's time for fresh blood. Modern ideas." "Modern ideas?" I couldn't help asking. "Like the automation proposal I sent last year? That unrealistic plan?" Dad scoffed. "Alexandra, manufacturing requires experience, not theoretical." My phone rang, Jennifer's name flashing on the screen. "Right on schedule." "Excuse me," I stood. "I need to take this." "Really, Alexandra," Mom scolded. "It's family dinner. Surely your little business can wait." I answered on speaker, walking to the window overlooking the city skyline. "This is Alexandra Walker." "Ms. Walker," Jennifer's crisp voice filled the room. "Your approval is needed for the Henderson Industries merger. The paperwork is ready, and the announcement is scheduled for tomorrow morning." The dining room went silent. Dad's wine glass stopped halfway to his mouth. "The board has approved the purchase price?" I asked, watching their reflections in the window. "Yes, ma'am. Walker Strategic now owns controlling interest in Henderson Industries. Would you like me to proceed with the reorganization plans?" Dad's face had turned an alarming shade of red. Mom's perfect makeup couldn't hide her shock. Thomas looked like he might faint. "Proceed," I confirmed. "And Jennifer? Make sure the new signs are up before the morning news crews arrive." I ended the call and turned back to the table. The silence was delicious. "What?" Dad stammered. "What was that about Henderson Industries?" "Oh," I smiled, pulling up documents on my phone. "Just finalizing Walker Strategic's acquisition of your company." "Well, my company now." "This is impossible," Thomas declared. "We would have known if someone was buying shares." "Would you?" I projected the ownership charts onto the dining room wall using my phone. "Like you knew about the shell companies I created?" The proxy votes I controlled? The board members I convinced? Mom's hands shook as she reached for her wine. But your little consulting firm, Walker Strategic, I corrected her, is the fastest growing acquisition firm in North America. That small office you mock? Headquarters for operations that control over $30 billion in assets. Dad stood abruptly, his chair scraping across Mom's precious hardwood floors. I'll call an emergency board meeting. This is already handled, I cut him off. The board voted this morning. Unanimously. Turns out all those golf buddies aren't as loyal when presented with actual business solutions. Solutions? Thomas sneered, but his voice wavered. You can't just walk in and watch me. I pulled up more documents. Starting tomorrow, Henderson Industries enters the 21st century. Modern manufacturing processes, automated systems, actual innovation instead of relying on the family name. The dining room erupted into chaos as my presentation continued. On the wall, years of secret acquisitions, strategic planning, and careful maneuvering displayed in devastating detail. Those board meetings you were too busy to attend, Thomas? I highlighted several dates. I was there representing various shell companies. While you were bragging about your corner office, I was quietly buying your voting rights. Mom's perfectly manicured hands trembled as she reached for the wine bottle. But your small consulting business, that tiny office, is a $5 billion company, I finished, pulling up Walker Strategic's true financials. That tiny office? 3 floors in the Metropolitan Tower. Those little projects? Fortune 500 acquisitions. My phone buzzed continuously. Wall Street Journal requesting comment. Bloomberg breaking news alert. CNBC planning live coverage. Henderson stock halted due to pending announcement. Dad slammed his fist on the table, making the crystal shake. This is theft. I'll fight this in court. With what evidence? I asked calmly, displaying more documents. Every share purchase was legal. Every board vote documented. Your own corporate governance rules made it possible. Rules I wrote, he shouted. Rules you wrote without understanding modern finance, I corrected. Too busy maintaining appearances to notice the world changing around you. Thomas scrolled frantically through his phone, face paling as he found confirmation after confirmation. The Miller acquisition last month. That was you? Through a subsidiary, yes. And the Thompson merger? Also me. While you were playing golf with Dad's friends, I was restructuring the entire industry. Mom dabbed at her eyes with a monogrammed napkin. But why? Why destroy your own family's company? Destroy it. I laughed, standing to face the window. I saved it. Henderson Industries was 3/4 away from bankruptcy. Your outdated methods, your resistance to change, your nepotistic hiring practices, you were killing Dad's legacy yourselves. The screens filled with more data, plummeting profits, failed innovations, lost contracts. 5 years of decline under their leadership. Tomorrow morning, I continued, Henderson Industries becomes Walker Manufacturing. Modern facilities, automated systems, merit-based management. And us. Thomas demanded. The family seats on the board? Are being restructured, I smiled. Though I hear there's an opening in HR. Isn't that where you suggested I should work? Dad's phone rang, probably his lawyer's, though it was too late. Much too late. The press conference is at 9 a.m., I informed them, gathering my things. You're welcome to attend. As observers, not participants. Alexandra, Mom stood reaching for me. We're still family. Family. I turned back. Was it family when you mocked every achievement I had? When you dismissed my career as cute? When you tried to push me into marrying for status instead of building my own? Through the windows, the Chicago skyline glittered, my empire, though they'd never noticed it growing. The severance packages are generous, I added, pulling on my coat. Brunello Cucinelli, not that they'd recognize it. More than generous, considering the company's actual financial state. You can't just take everything we built. Dad protested. Everything you built? I raised an eyebrow. You mean everything your father built? The company you inherited and nearly destroyed? The legacy you were so ready to hand to Thomas, who can't even read a quarterly report correctly? Thomas flushed but couldn't deny it. His executive position had always been more show than substance. Starting tomorrow, I continued, Henderson Industries joins the modern world. Real innovation, real leadership, real success, not just inherited privilege. My phone buzzed again, Jennifer, with more updates. New signage installation beginning. Management transition teams in place. Press packets ready for distribution. Your father's lawyers all declined to take his case. Oh, and Dad. I paused at the door. Remember when you said running a global manufacturing company was too complex for me? You should have paid more attention to those theoretical ideas I sent you. Mom called out desperately, please, Alexandra, we can discuss this. Like you discussed firing Maria last month? I turned back. A loyal employee of 20 years, let go because she couldn't afford country club membership? Don't worry, she's my new head of HR. She'll be handling your exit paperwork. The look on their faces was priceless. Maria had been like a second mother to me, watching me grow up while they attended their endless social functions. Her dismissal had been the final push I needed to accelerate the takeover. Jennifer will send you the details for tomorrow's announcement, I said, checking my watch. Patek Philippe, another detail they'd missed. I suggest you prepare statements. The press will have questions about the change in management. You'll regret this, Thomas threatened weakly. The business community already knows, I cut him off. Why do you think your calls aren't being returned? Nobody wants to be on the losing side of this transition. Through the window, I could see news vans already gathering outside Henderson Industries headquarters. Tomorrow they'd witness the unveiling of its new identity and its new owner. Enjoy your wine, I smiled, noting the label they hadn't bothered to read. It's worth more than your severance packages. Consider it my last contribution to family dinner. I left them there, surrounded by the evidence of their own blindness, their empire crumbling in real time. Tomorrow the world would know about Walker Strategic and its CEO. But tonight I'd given my family a private preview of exactly how expensive their condescension would prove to be. Success, after all, is the best revenge. The next morning, the Metropolitan Tower's executive floor hummed with controlled chaos. Every screen showed news coverage of the Henderson Industries takeover, my carefully hidden empire finally stepping into the light. Your father's outside, Jennifer reported, tablet in hand. He's demanding to speak with the board. The board he can no longer access because he never bothered to update building security protocols, I noted, watching him argue with the lobby guards through the security feed. How's the stock? Up 28% since the announcement. The market apparently likes the idea of actual leadership instead of inherited titles. My phone was a constant stream of notifications. Fortune. Shadow Queen of Acquisitions reveals $5 billion empire. Wall Street Journal. Henderson heiress orchestrates billion-dollar coup. Forbes requesting cover story. Mom, please call us immediately. Thomas, you've destroyed our family's legacy. I archived my family's messages without reading them. They'd have plenty of time to reflect during their upcoming unemployment. Ms. Walker, my assistant called, the transition team needs your approval on the factory floor reorganization. I pulled up the plan's modernization proposals my father had dismissed as theoretical, now becoming reality. The same innovations he'd mocked would save thousands of jobs he'd been ready to cut. Alexandra. Thomas's voice boomed from my office doorway. Somehow he'd convinced a junior employee to let him up. You have to stop this. I turned slowly, taking in his disheveled appearance, his precious Rolex missing, probably pawned when his credit cards were cancelled last night. Security, I spoke calmly into my intercom, please escort Mr. Henderson out. His access has been revoked. You can't do this to us, he protested as security approached. We're family. Family. I projected yesterday's security footage onto the office walls. His sneering comments about my little consulting work, playing in high definition. Like this family? The screens filled with years of documented insults, dismissals, and condescension. Every moment they'd belittled my achievements, now preserved for posterity. The board will never accept this, he threatened weakly. The board already has. I switched the displays to live feeds of Henderson facilities worldwide, where Walker manufacturing signs were being unveiled. They voted unanimously. Turns out competence matters more than last names. My phone buzzed more updates. Henderson Industries shares soaring. Tech sector responding positively to modernization plans. Your mother trying to access company accounts blocked. Rival firms expressing interest in partnerships. You've killed Dad's dream, Thomas accused as security gripped his arms. No, I corrected him, I saved it. The company was 3 months from collapse under your leadership. Check the real numbers, if you can understand them. Through the windows I could see more news vans arriving. The story was irresistible. Daughter secretly builds empire to save family company from incompetent heirs. Ms. Walker, Jennifer appeared, your father's trying to call an emergency shareholder meeting. With what shares? I smiled. He sold his voting rights to shell companies years ago. My companies. The screens showed the complex web of acquisitions, each perfectly legal, each exploiting their own outdated corporate structure. The country club board is meeting. Thomas tried one last threat. You'll never work in this city. The country club? I laughed. You mean the one I bought last month? Amazing what you miss when you don't read acquisition notices. His face paled as security dragged him toward the elevator. One more privilege stripped away. Oh, and Thomas? I called after him. HR needs to see you about your severance package. I believe you know Maria. She's handling all family transitions. The elevator doors closed on his shocked face. Outside, the morning sun caught the new Walker Manufacturing sign being unveiled across the street. My phone buzzed again. Jennifer's final updates. All Henderson signage replaced globally. Management transitions proceeding on schedule. Your mother's club membership revoked. Press conference in 30 minutes. I straightened my Chanel suit, the same one they'd assumed was a knockoff at dinner, and prepared to face the cameras. Time to show the world what real business acumen looked like. One more thing, Jennifer added with a slight smile. Your brother's Porsche was just repossessed from the country club parking lot. Apparently, the lease was through a Henderson subsidiary. Have it delivered to Maria, I decided. She's wanted a convertible since they cut her pension. The morning sun painted Chicago's skyline in gold, glinting off buildings that now belonged to my empire. Below, news crews gathered to document the fall of the Henderson dynasty and the rise of Walker Strategic. Sometimes revenge takes patience. Sometimes it takes planning. And sometimes if you play it right it takes everything they thought you couldn't have. I picked up my phone to dial into the first Walker Manufacturing board meeting. Time to show them how a real CEO handles business. After all, I learned from watching them do everything wrong.